28. Pain brought Cal back to consciousness, a lancing, red-hot agony that shot through him as a hard wooden surface thudded into his back. Something rough yet familiar pressed into his trembling hand, but his fingers refused to close around it. Even this simple effort drained him. More pain as hands, quickened by desperation, tugged and pulled at his bloodied shirt. Damp, musty air kissed his exposed skin, and a chorus of gasps filled the room, the sudden sensory input overwhelming. He arched his back to move, but muffled voices told him to stay still and try to relax. A bright light cut through the darkness surrounding his vision, followed by a voice he recognized, soothing and gentle. Cal, brace yourself. This is going to hurt. He didn't understand the words. His head was too muddled by a discord of whispering, as if each word were trying to hold him back, trying to stop him returning to himself. He forced his focus back into the room, on the bright light around Ovette, a brilliant white glow that spiraled down her arms as she placed her hands on his chest. Then the true pain began. The purifying blaze of Ovette's light raged through every nerve, warring against the chain's corruption that had taken hold. Vigor surged through him, and the whispers responded in kind by swelling into a unified scream. The intent behind the voice was now clear. It wanted him, not to harm him or endanger him. It wanted him. The voice crescendoed into a deafening roar before vanishing, leaving behind blessed silence. Cal bolted upright, gasping for air. Each new breath burned his lungs as if they had never been used before. His vision blurred and he clenched his fists, willing his body to obey. The world spun in and out of focus, but the light around Ovette anchored him, dimmed as it was. She clutched at her temple, wincing as she slumped against the table, exhaustion stealing the color from her face, her white hair clinging to her skin, damp with sweat. Shay didn't wait for permission. Before Cal could say anything, her arms were around him, squeezing so tight it hurt. He returned the embrace as well as he could, drawing her in close, feeling the rapid beat of her heart against his chest. The connection grounded him in the moment, brought him back as much as Ovette's gift had, and for a few heartbeats more, he allowed both of them this moment of vulnerability. Her grip tightened before she broke off and punched him in the arm. You idiot! What were you thinking? Cal adjusted himself on the table, coughing against the dryness in his throat. His chest still ached, but the tightness was receding. Me? Thinking? The sound of his voice rattled inside his head. It felt strange, but it was his. His alone. Shay let out a soft snort in response and crossed her arms. How do you feel? She ran her gaze over Cal, and if it were anyone else, he might have felt embarrassed to be scrutinized in such a manner. Cal breathed deep, flexed his blackened hand, and rotated his shoulder, taking stock of how light both felt. A bit drained, to be honest. But I feel good. Better than I've felt in years. George stepped forward, his head bent low to one side as he too inspected Cal's body. Cal, your arm, your chest. Cal pulled the tattered remnants of his clothing together, aware of the room staring at his exposed chest. It's nothing, really. I'm still figuring it out. Don't worry, I have it under control. Jord wasn't convinced. He leaned closer and kept his voice low. Are you sure? How can you have something under control if you don't know what it is? His question was as solid and practical as ever. Shay inserted herself between them both. Artie and Cal are safe. Right now, that's all I care about. She turned to the pale and sweaty Novette. Ovette, I don't know what you did, and I have even less idea how you did it, but thank you. Ovette ignored her thanks, her stern gaze having never left Cal. Are you ready to leave? The gravity of her question dawned on him. He swung his legs over the table, testing his weight before buttoning his leather jerkin over the torn undershirt. I'm ready.
Leave? But you're still weak.
Jord remarked, trying his best to push the resisting Cal back onto the table.
Where exactly do you both intend on going? Will you at least explain what you two are talking about?
The Inquisitors will make their move soon. In fact, I wouldn't be surprised if they were already on their way here. Ovette's words were clipped, sending a round of gasps around the room. Jord's face drew pale, and he stepped toward her, a hint of frustration in his voice.
There's no way you could know that for sure. And frightening these people isn't going to help right now.
Cal finished adjusting his clothing and hopped off the table. The Inquisitors will know where Ovette is, because she used her abilities to save me. Ovette dipped her head as Cal spoke. You all saw it, the white fire in her palms. I don't know how, but that fire is like a beacon to the great chain in Sanctum Spire, and it'll be sending its enforcers to come and collect her. If she stays here, she puts all of you in danger. Cal turned away from the crowd and faced Ovette. And wherever she goes, I go. What little color Jord had left in his face drained, giving way to the exhaustion of the last few days, the last few weeks. He swayed on his feet.
Is that true?
His question was aimed at anyone who could answer. It is, Ovette answered. The chains are more alive than you realize, more than anyone realizes.
Where will you go?
Artie stepped forward, a spot of blood seeping through the fresh bandage that had been placed around his head. Up until now, he'd been content with staying hidden among the others in the room, but it was obvious he felt responsible for all this. He wore the shame openly. Cal could almost see that shame turning over in his friend's rational mind. If he hadn't been captured, Cal wouldn't have had to save him, wouldn't have been injured, and Ovette wouldn't have had to use her gift. Cal felt a twinge of sorrow for his friend. Shay, true to her cunning, answered for them. They're going to break Valewind's chain. She caught Cal's hesitant gaze and pinned it down like a spider would a fly. Aren't you?
That's madness, George spat. The Citadel sits on the outer edge of the mantle. There's no way either of you could even get close to its gates, let alone storm its halls and destroy the chain.
I know it sounds insane, but we have to try, Jord. Ovette and I can't stay here. Now that the Inquisitors know the Gyfted and the Chainbreaker are in the city, they're going to care a lot more about finding us than they do you. Cal gestured to the disparate rebels huddled around the room, all of them listening intently. The longer we stay, the more danger we put you in.
We're in danger with or without you here,
Artie chimed in. Shay moved with sudden purpose, breaking the silence that had fallen on the room. She gathered what little supplies the rebels had been able to cobble together and threw them into a small hip satchel. If we're heading to the Citadel, we might as well go now. The intensity of her words were almost palpable. Cal caught her arm. No, Shay. Not we. Not this time. He gestured again to the people in the room. These people need you more than I do. They need their leader. She shook him off. You're right. They need their leader. But that's not me. It's him, she said, pointing at Jord. I'm not my father, and I don't want to be either. I can't encourage people the way he could, but Jord can. She held up her hand before Cal could respond, her voice turning to steel. I know what you're going to say, but I don't want to hear it. Don't try to talk me out of this. You may be the chain breaker, and she may be the gifted, but that doesn't give you the right to tell me to run and hide while you both throw your lives away. Every single person who joined the rebellion did so knowing it could lead to their deaths. We all have our reasons for being here, and don't you dare try to take that away from us. From me. This fight is about more than just the two of you. Her words hung in the air, strong and resolute. Cal studied the room, stared into the faces of the able few willing to stand against tyranny. The graybeard veteran with his aging leather armor, a merchant's daughter who held her dagger at the wrong angle, the patch-bearded lad already belting his one-size-too-big sword. Their eyes bore the same determined glint as Shay's. Allies by common cause, strangers in name only. Resigned to Shay's decision, Cal exhaled through his nose. Okay, we'll make our way to the mantle first. Then we can figure things out from there. Jord rubbed his stubbled chin, the rasp loud in the quiet room.
Finding the citadel will be easy enough. It's the tallest building on the mantle. Valewind's government uses it as its seat of power. But we'll never get close. Not with every prefect and inquisitor combing the city for you. Why don't we use those?
Artie pointed to the prefect uniforms piled in the corner.
The inquisitors are looking for Cal and Ovette, right? So why don't we give them exactly what they're looking for?
We can walk right through the front gates. Cal's eyebrows rose. Not bad, Artie. Artie shrugged his shoulders and gestured to Quentin behind him.
Actually, it was his idea.
Quentin tipped his head in silence, eyeing the group.
That gets you inside the building, but what about the prefects inside? The city is on high alert, remember? There'll be dozens of them inside. Plus, you still have to make it to the chain room and sever the damned thing,
George said. The gray bearded rebel cleared his throat and stepped forward. We can take care of that. How? Shay asked. If we hit the town hall at the same time, it'll draw out the prefects and the inquisitors. Should empty the citadel somewhat. George swooped his arm in front of him, dismissing the idea.
No, we've discussed this already. Hitting the town hall is suicide.
Why the town hall? What's there? Cal asked, looking between Jord and the rebel. It's been converted into a makeshift processing center. It's where the Inquisitors have been taking the citizens they've rounded up. Anyone strong enough to be sent to the labor camps in the valley. Some of our people are being held there, and they're long overdue for a rescue, the rebel answered.
I said no.
George's frustration frayed his voice. Are you sure? Shay asked the aging rebel, ignoring George's protest. My son is there. The man's voice never wavered, though his knuckles whitened on the hilt of his sword. I've never been more sure. Thank you. Shay clasped the man's shoulder before addressing the room. It's decided then. Jord, Artie, Quentin, and I will don the prefect uniforms and take Cal and Ovette to the citadel as captives. The rest of you hit the town hall with everything you've got. Her gaze landed on Artie. Outfit the town hall team with whatever gadgets you can spare. Anything that might give them an edge.
On it.
Artie replied, and he led the aging rebel to a pile of what looked like metal casings and scrap. The rest of you, if there's anything you can't bear to leave behind, now's the time to grab it. We leave within the hour. At Shay's word, the rebels sprang into action, checking weapons, sharing quiet words. The room came abuzz with life. Jord nudged Cal and gestured his head toward Shay, the corner of his mouth playing into a smirk.
What was she saying about not being their leader?
Cal shivered as he and the others crept through the streets leading to Valewind Citadel, the late afternoon air biting through his clothes. Valewind wasn't known for its clement weather, and the mantle's exposed position offered less protection from the wind-driven damp. It was enough to sap the morale of any would-be insurgents. The group stopped just a short distance from the Citadel gate. Its walls shot up in the same looming arrogance as the others Cal had sundered, the chain's runes pulsing where it pierced the roof. A small army of prefects and inquisitors crewed the Citadel's gatehouse, far more than Cal or even Ovette could handle at once. The guard stood rigid beneath a newer archway, made of the same matte gray stone as Dredge's gift dampening collars. The construction looked fresh, an unmistakable sign of the Daven's grip tightening on the populace. Every detail confirmed the Citadel's high alert. Dread slithered through Cal's gut. He should have been grateful for the continued silence in his mind. Ovette's gift had healed him, leaving him in better condition than he had been in years. All his persistent aches and old injuries gone. But he couldn't shake the sense that the whispers were lurking rather than gone. What's taking them so long? Quentin slumped against the wall of the alley that the group had decided to hide in, his casual posture at odds with the danger and severity of the situation. They should have hit the town hall by now. Jord gave Quentin the barest of side glances.
He's right. Something must have happened to them.
Neither of them had spoken much since they'd reunited. Give them a chance. Cal placed a hand on Jord's shoulder. They're a brave group for risking their lives like this.
They're just trying to keep up with the Chainbreaker, Jord said. Even here in Valewind, people have heard of you.
I can think of a few better role models. Cal gave Jord a wry smile.
Funny. So can I.
Jord said, returning the smile. The ground shook as an explosion rocked the nearby streets, spraying the rooftops with debris. A column of dark gray smoke began to billow into the air. The Citadel gate became alive with activity. Inquisitors barked orders, and prefect units mobilized toward the disturbance, leaving behind only a skeleton crew to guard the main gate.
Time to move,
George said, reaching for his prefect helmet. Wait. Cal stopped him and the rest from readying themselves. He cast one last glance at the gate, his unease lingering. We need to make sure we get this right. If we're found out, we'll be surrounded before we can make our escape. What exactly do you have in mind? Shay asked. Cal mulled over different options in his mind before turning to look between Ovette and the group. Ovette, you need to pretend to be unconscious. After your display in the market square, no one would believe a group of prefects overpowered you if you were awake. Ovette dipped her head. The words were true, but discomfort still flashed across her features. Cal made a mental note to apologize for it later. Artie, Quentin, you carry in Ovette. Shay, you can lead me in while Jord does the talking. Everyone nodded and then fixed their disguises. Cal turned his attention to Jord, once again giving his shoulder a squeeze. There's one more thing I need from you. Same with Ovette. We need to make it look like I went down fighting. He composed himself before saying, Jord, I need you to punch me in the face. Hard. Jord's eyes shot wide.
What? Have you gone mad? I'm not going to do that.
Cal smirked. Why not? You used to do it all the time. Jord averted his gaze, his cheeks flushing red.
That was a long time ago, Cal. We were different people.
Cal's rivalry with Jord felt like something from another life, like it had happened to different people. One born into wealth and power, the other born without. Life had twisted them both down strange paths. But standing here, now, in an alleyway watching their hated enemy scramble to face yet another rebel attack, Cal couldn't have been more grateful for his friendship. George's voice dropped, and when he looked back at Cal, the redness in his cheeks hadn't faded.
I've never really apologized for the way I used to treat you. Nor you, Ovette.
Ovette took his hand in her own. You've nothing to apologize for, Jord. I'm glad we all had this opportunity to reunite. We're all that's left of our family. George swallowed hard. Ovette smiled, lifting his chin. Besides, Cal probably deserved some of it. George managed a grateful smile back before Cal jabbed his shoulder. Make it look believable, for old time's sake. George inhaled and rolled back his shoulders.
As you wish.
His slight smile morphed into a grin.
King Hollow.